Today, we are going to explore a difficult but important topic: manipulation. More specifically, how to manipulate without guilt, according to the famous political thinker Niccolò Machiavelli. Machiavelli lived during the Renaissance, a time of great change and upheaval in Europe. He wrote about power, politics, and human nature in a way that was both practical and often unsettling. His most famous work, The Prince, is a guidebook for rulers on how to gain and maintain power. But beneath the surface, it is also a deep reflection on human behavior and morality. Machiavelli does not ask us to be cruel for cruelty's sake. Instead, he asks us to understand the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. This is the first step to what he calls manipulation without guilt. What does manipulation mean here? It means influencing others, shaping situations, and making choices that lead to your desired outcome. Manipulation has a bad reputation. We often think of it as dishonest or harmful. But Machiavelli shows us that in life, especially in politics and leadership, influencing others is inevitable. The real question is not whether we manipulate, but how we do it and how we live with it. Machiavelli challenges the common moral ideas of his time. He says that good and evil are not fixed concepts. They change depending on circumstances and goals. For a ruler, being good all the time can be dangerous. Sometimes harsh actions are necessary to protect the state, to keep order, or to survive. This is where manipulation becomes a tool for survival and success. He believed that people are motivated by self-interest, fear, desire, and pride. To influence others well, we must look beyond their words and actions to understand what truly drives them. This awareness is the foundation for manipulating without guilt. One of the most important ideas Machiavelli shares is the use of what might be called calculated honesty. This sounds contradictory at first, but it means being truthful when it serves your purpose and withholding information when it doesn't. Lies and deception can be dangerous and eventually destroy trust, but telling carefully chosen truths builds credibility and loyalty. By learning what and when to reveal, you can guide others toward your goals gently and without breaking their trust. Machiavelli also teaches us the value of adaptability. People and situations change constantly, and to manipulate effectively, we must be flexible and ready to adjust our approach. What works with one person might fail with another. Sometimes we need to be patient and gentle, and at other times firm and decisive. Being rigid or predictable makes us vulnerable. Adaptability allows us to remain in control without feeling guilty because we respond wisely and thoughtfully, not impulsively. Closely related to adaptability is the skill of managing perceptions. Machiavelli understood that reality is often shaped by appearances. People judge others not only by their actions, but also by how they appear. By cultivating a reputation for strength, fairness, or kindness, we can open doors and reduce resistance. This does not mean being fake or dishonest. Instead, it means focusing on what we want others to see and feel about us. Managing this carefully creates a stable platform for influence and reduces the need for harsh manipulative tactics. Another important idea is the power of strategic generosity. Offering favors, compliments, or help builds goodwill and makes others more willing to cooperate. However, generosity must be deliberate and planned, not wasted. Too much generosity can drain our resources and create unhealthy dependencies. Instead, generosity should be offered when it strengthens our position and aligns with our goals. This softens resistance and builds alliances without sacrificing our power or integrity. Machiavelli also emphasizes the importance of anticipating opposition. Manipulation is not about crushing others, but about managing conflict before it becomes destructive. By understanding what fears, jealousies, or objections others might have, we can address these issues early. This foresight saves energy and builds trust. It also helps us avoid guilt because we act responsibly, considering the effects of our actions on others. One of Machiavelli's most well-known lessons is the balance between fear and respect. He argues that if we cannot be both loved and feared, it is better to be feared but never hated. Fear can motivate people, but hatred destroys loyalty and encourages rebellion. Manipulating through fear requires careful control and fairness. It is not about cruelty, but about creating order and respect. When people understand the consequences of betrayal or disobedience, they are less likely to harm us, which protects both ourselves and others in the long run. Another subtle but powerful tool Machiavelli teaches is the use of silence and mystery. Leaders should be cautious with their words. Revealing too much can weaken their position, while saying too little can make others anxious. The right balance creates intrigue and respect. Silence also gives time to observe, reflect, and plan without pressure. It allows us to manipulate calmly and without guilt because we act with wisdom and control rather than haste. Machiavelli's techniques all emphasize long-term thinking. Manipulation is not about quick tricks or immediate gain. It is about building stable relationships, reputations, and power that last. When we see manipulation as a thoughtful process with a long-term perspective, it becomes less selfish or reckless and more a skill of leadership. Acting with this kind of clarity and responsibility reduces guilt because we act for the greater good, not just personal advantage. In this part, we have learned that manipulating without guilt means understanding human nature deeply, using honesty wisely, being adaptable, managing perceptions, giving strategically, anticipating opposition, balancing fear and respect, using silence thoughtfully, and thinking long-term. When we apply these ideas, manipulation transforms from trickery into a skill for guiding ourselves and others toward better outcomes. Acting with clarity and responsibility, guilt fades away. In the final part, we will explore how to cultivate the mindset needed to manipulate without guilt in everyday life. We will discuss self-awareness, ethics, and how to balance power and conscience following Machiavelli's guidance. In the first two parts, we learned that manipulation is a natural and necessary part of human interaction, and we explored how Machiavelli's techniques help us influence others effectively while avoiding guilt. Now, in this final part, we will focus on cultivating the mindset that allows us to apply these ideas in everyday life with wisdom and balance. Machiavelli does not encourage manipulation for selfishness or cruelty. Instead, he teaches that manipulation, when done with self-awareness and responsibility, can be a powerful tool to achieve stability, success, and even a greater good. To manipulate without guilt, we must first understand our own motivations honestly. This requires deep self-awareness. Ask yourself why you want to influence others. Are your goals aligned with your values? Are you acting out of fear, pride, or genuine desire to improve a situation? Being clear about your intentions helps prevent manipulation from becoming harmful or deceitful. When you understand your own heart, you can navigate your actions with greater integrity. Machiavelli reminds us that the world is often not as fair or just as we hope. In this reality, power matters. Power is the ability to make things happen and protect what is important. But power can be used well or badly. Manipulation is a form of power, and like any power, it must be guided by ethics. Ethics here does not mean following rigid moral rules. Instead, it means acting with awareness of the consequences and striving to avoid unnecessary harm. Balancing power and ethics requires us to accept that difficult choices are sometimes necessary. We may have to act in ways that feel uncomfortable or challenge our usual ideas of right and wrong. Machiavelli understood this well. He did not ask rulers to be cruel for cruelty's sake, but to be wise enough to do what is necessary for the survival and flourishing of their people. Likewise, in our lives, manipulation should never be about domination or destruction, but about creating harmony and achieving meaningful goals. One way to maintain this balance is by practicing empathy. Understanding the feelings and perspectives of others does not weaken your position. Instead, it strengthens it by allowing you to communicate more effectively and avoid unnecessary conflict. Empathy helps you recognize when manipulation crosses the line into exploitation or harm. It keeps you grounded and reminds you that those you influence are human beings with their own needs and dignity. Another important aspect of the mindset Machiavelli encourages is patience. Manipulation is not about quick wins or instant gratification. It is a long game. Sometimes you must wait and observe, allowing situations to unfold before acting. This patience reduces mistakes and builds trust. Acting too quickly or aggressively often leads to guilt and regret because it harms relationships or backfires. By cultivating patience, you give yourself time to act wisely and with confidence. Self-control is also vital. Manipulation without guilt requires you to master your impulses and emotions. When we let anger, jealousy, or fear drive our actions, we lose clarity and may cause damage. Machiavelli advises that a calm and controlled mind sees the bigger picture and can steer situations toward better outcomes. This self-mastery creates inner peace, so manipulation is no longer a source of stress or guilt, but a skill exercised with grace. In addition, it is essential to keep learning and reflecting. Machiavelli was a student of history and human nature. He understood that every situation is unique and requires different approaches. By learning from experience, observing carefully, and reflecting on your actions, you can improve your ability to influence others wisely and ethically. This ongoing growth reduces guilt because you become more aware of your impact and more responsible for your choices. Lastly, remember that manipulation is a tool, not a goal. It is a means to an end, not the end itself. The ultimate goal should be living a fulfilling, authentic life while respecting others. When manipulation serves this higher purpose, it becomes a natural part of your journey, not something to hide or feel ashamed of. In conclusion, Machiavelli's advice to manipulate without guilt is not about being cold or ruthless. It is about embracing reality with clear eyes, acting with wisdom, and balancing power with empathy and ethics. By cultivating self-awareness, patience, empathy, and self-control, you develop the mindset needed to navigate life's challenges effectively and with integrity. When you do this, manipulation becomes not a source of guilt, but a path to strength and success. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Machiavelli's ideas. Remember, understanding and influencing others wisely is a skill that can empower you to live more confidently and authentically. If you found this helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more philosophy that speaks to your life. Until next time, stay thoughtful and strong.